I first noticed him because he finished my sentence, and because no one ever does that without knowing you well or pretending they do. It happened on a Tuesday that felt heavier than it should have. The bus stop smelled of rain and exhaust, and the city moved past in tired sighs. I was on my phone, typing a message I had rewritten 5 times, when I muttered out loud without realizing it, "I should have left earlier." "So you wouldn't miss it," a voice beside me said calmly. I looked up, startled. The man standing there was ordinary in a way that made him hard to describe later. Mid-30s, maybe older, dark jacket, eyes that didn't rush. He wasn't smiling, but he wasn't cold either. Sorry, I said. I was talking to myself. He nodded. Most people do. Just quietly. The bus arrived before I could think of something clever, and we boarded among the crowd. I assumed that was the end of it. Small odd moment, nothing more. But when the bus lurched forward and I whispered, "I hate how this route always gets stuck at the 3rd signal," he said, steadying himself on the pole. I stared at him now. "Do I know you?" "No," he replied gently. "But you know this city. And you look like someone who's tired of explaining things." That was unsettling, but also strangely accurate that we stood in silence for a few stops. I kept glancing at him in the window's reflection. He wasn't looking at me. He was looking outward, as if listening to something I couldn't hear. When I got off, he got off too. "This is my stop," I said quickly, half defensive. "Mine as well," he answered. "For today." That should have worried me. Instead, I felt something loosen in my chest that we walked in the same direction. The street was lined with closed shops and posters peeling from the walls. I broke the silence. "You have a habit of finishing people's sentences?" "Only when they've already finished them in their head," he said. "That doesn't make sense." "It will." We stopped at a corner. I waited for him to turn away. He didn't. "I'm late for work," I said. "You'll still arrive," he replied. Late isn't the same as lost. I don't know why, but I laughed. A real laugh, the kind that surprises you with its sound. "Why are you doing this?" I asked. He thought for a moment. "Because once, someone did it for me." That answer felt too important to push against, so I let it rest. We parted there. I walked away, expecting the feeling to fade, but it stayed with me all day. At lunch, when my coworker complained about deadlines, I almost said, "It's like we're running on," and stopped myself, half expecting that stranger to finish it with empty batteries. He didn't, of course. I told myself it was coincidence. People say predictable things. Cities repeat themselves. But 3 days later, I saw him again. This time it was in the hospital corridor. My mother had been admitted that morning. Nothing dramatic, the doctor said, but enough to stretch worry thin. I sat on a plastic chair, staring at a vending machine that hummed like it knew too much. "I hate hospitals," I whispered. "They remind you that bodies aren't promises," he said, sitting beside me. I jumped to my feet. What are you doing here?" "Visiting," he said. "Same as you." I looked around. "Who?" "Someone who once waited for me," he answered. We sat together. The corridor echoed with footsteps and distant beeps. After a while, I said, "I don't like not knowing." "Neither do I," he replied. But some answers arrive before questions. I watched my hands. "You talk like a book. And you think like a letter you never sent," he said softly. That landed harder than I expected. I swallowed. "My mother will be fine," he added, before I could speak. "They said that already." "Yes," he said. "But you didn't believe them." I didn't ask how he knew. I was afraid of the answer. Over the next few weeks, he appeared in pieces of my life like punctuation marks. At the grocery store, when I hesitated between brands, muttering about prices, he finished my thought with, "Quality isn't always louder." At the park, when I watched children play and whispered, "I wonder if I'll ever," he said, "stop comparing timelines." Each time, he left before I could ask more. I started waiting for him, which felt foolish. But part of me listened harder to my own thoughts, curious which ones he might complete. I became aware of how often I cut myself off, how many sentences I never finished even alone. One evening, I finally asked him, "Why me?" He was feeding crumbs to pigeons, careful and patient. "Because you pause," he said. "And kindness lives in pauses." I frowned. "That's not an answer." "It's the beginning of one." We walked together until the sky bruised into dusk. "I don't even know your name," I said. "You don't need it," he replied. "But if it helps, you can call me whatever you didn't get to call someone else." I stopped walking. "That's not fair." "No," he agreed. "But it's honest." The truth surfaced then, sharp and sudden. My father had died years ago, mid-conversation, mid-life. There were sentences I still carried unfinished, words I had practiced but never spoken. I sat on a bench, breath shallow. "You're not him," I said. "I know," he answered quickly. "I'm not replacing anyone." "Then what are you?" He sat beside me, leaving space between us. "I'm a reminder," he said. "That words want to be completed. And so do people." Tears came without warning. I hated that he saw them. He didn't move closer. He didn't touch me. He just said, "It's okay to miss what didn't finish." I cried until the city softened. After that, he came less often. Or maybe I noticed him less because I was speaking more. I finished my sentences with friends. I told my mother things I'd postponed. I wrote the letter I had never sent and didn't mail it, but read it aloud to an empty room. One afternoon, months later, I sat on the same bus stop where we had first met. Rain threatened. I caught myself muttering, "I wonder if I'll see him again," he said, standing behind me. I smiled before I turned. "You're leaving," I said. "Yes." "For good?" "For now," he replied. "People don't need me forever." I studied his face, trying to memorize it. "Will I forget you?" "No," he said. "You'll hear me when you listen." The bus arrived. He didn't board. "Wait," I said. "What if I stop finishing them again? What if I doubt yourself?" he finished. "You will. That's human. Just remember to return." "To what?" "To kindness," he said simply. "Especially toward yourself." The doors closed. The bus pulled away. Through the window, I saw him grow smaller, then ordinary, then gone. That evening, I caught myself starting a thought and stopping. I smiled, breathed, and finished it myself. Not perfectly. But honestly. And somewhere in the quiet space after my words, kindness waited, patient as ever, ready to listen until the sentence ended.